All right, welcome back. My name is Morgan, and this is my friend Adam. We're both watch collectors, and today's video we're going to be doing something a little different than what we're usually used to, and we're going to be talking about 3 watch collections for service members at 3 different price points. So the way I wanted to do this video was to have a collection essentially of watches that fit different scenarios, and to basically cover all your bases if you're somebody that is serving on active duty and you're potentially deployable. When you're living that lifestyle, you could find yourself in any number of situations. Like you're just talking about the Marine Corps ball. And for anybody that doesn't know about the Marine Corps ball, that's a black tie affair for our civilians who are watching. So what, for example, like what watch did you wear to the ball specifically?
To the ball, I wore my vintage Omega that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
That's one of those occasions where nice subtle dress watch, but one of my favorite pieces. It's definitely an event where you want to be a bit more dressier.
Yeah.
And I only pull that watch out for those kinds of occasions.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, like, as you'll see in this list, we talk about, your everyday versus, like, operational if you're going out in the field versus a dress watch. I'm not going to wear, my everyday or field watch for an occasion like that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And that only makes sense. Like, it kind of mirrors the way that you would live civilian life. Like, if you were to go to, a nice gala or something,
dress for the occasion.
Yeah, you dress for the occasion. You come correct, and you're not going to be wearing your G-Shock or anything to something like that. So, for keeping that concept in mind, I wanted to make like the perfect 3 watch collection at 3 different price points, because being in the military, some people get paid much more than others. Like if you're a private fresh out of boot camp, like $500 is a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
And or $1,000 especially, because that's where we're starting out. That's a lot of money to spend. So I try to make my list accommodating to just about every pay grade essentially. So the way that these collections are structured is that we're going to have a budget category, so a collection that is under $1,000 in total value, and then a collection under $10,000 in value. So that's going to be our mid-range budget, and then finally we're going to go high-end. So if you're that one random colonel that decides to watch my channel, that entry is going to be for you. So and that's under $30,000. And I think we kind of both went a little crazy in there.
Oh yeah. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
Dream pieces.
And it'll be a surprise for everybody because I don't know what's on your list, and you don't know what's on my list other than what you've seen out of the corner of your eyes. So
exactly.
Yeah. Without further ado, let's start off with the budget category. So for our budget category and the garrison / everyday category, what is your first watch?
Okay, so mine, unfortunately I didn't bring it here with me today. We made another video a little while back where I do showcase it when we're going over our collections. It's my Hamilton Khaki Field. Mm-hmm. You can get that watch for just around $500 to $550. They make both automatic and manual line variants of it, as well as like a handful of different colors. I went with the very, very basic one where it's just a black dial and a green NATO strap. So being in the Marine Corps, it goes perfectly with the uniforms we wear, but pretty much any branch of service, it's going to look good in uniform, as well as the history behind that piece.
Yeah.
It being worn by GIs, back in, World War II, Vietnam. Hamilton's been around supporting American troops for decades. So that's why I chose that one, as well as just the fact that it's very personal to me.
Yeah.
I wear that watch, every single day I'm walking into work. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you it's reliable and it's a great piece. So that's my first pick.
Yeah.
What I went for every day.
I think that's a great pick for sure. I think it's a little bit, that watch is a little bit more involved since it's manual line. So someone who doesn't know anything about watches at all may want to educate themselves a little bit on how to actually care for a manual line, because it's not as simple as picking up a quartz Timex or anything and just wearing it. it's going to die after what, like 80 hours
Yeah.
of wear. So you got to wind that thing up. You got to make sure that you're
Every morning, right before I leave for work,
right.
I'll stand there and twist it up.
And you don't want to overwind it either. But
Absolutely.
you know, once it is wound up and everything, like, and you know, you're not being abusive to it. You don't want to be abusive to any watch. It doesn't matter how tough it is. But if you're not abusive to it, it'll stand up to a lot for sure.
For example, just yesterday evening, I have a friend who just recently got that Omega Constellation that I was telling you about, and that watch is an automatic, but he's over here trying to learn, you know, how the screw, how like winding it up works and the process of all that. And I brought down my Hamilton just for example and showed him. I was like, okay, this is a manual wind, but you'll see you twist it up and eventually you'll hit that point, you know, where there's tension on it. So it served as a perfect example to at least show him, you know, how a manual wind or just how winding any watch in general works. So.
And I think the best part about that watch too is that, you know, the Hamilton Khaki Field, at least the standard version that you have, it's powered by Hamilton's H50 caliber, which is very, very inexpensive to service. Yeah, you can take that watch to Hamilton if anything bad were to happen to it, or any Hamilton AD, and they'd be able to take care of you very nicely, and they'd get that watch back in working order.
Absolutely.
Should anything bad happen to it, that's the nice thing about, you know, having calibers that aren't necessarily in-house or maybe a bit more standard. Like, it makes them affordable to maintain.
Absolutely.
And
it's like the Camry.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a Camry. It's easy to service. You know, it's not gonna require excessive maintenance like, you know, maybe a Lambo would or something.
Absolutely.
So, moving on. This is my choice for the Garrison / everyday watch. This is the Seiko SRPK29, and I'll make sure to put some B-roll up there. But I'm showing Adam while we're filming this. Like, this is the Seiko SRPK29. It looks.
You own this, don't you?
I don't own this. I have the Seiko 5 GMT, which is, you know, basically this watch but with GMT functionality instead of, you know, dive functionality.
Okay.
But, you know, this watch is nice. It's $325 at MSRP, so it's well within the $1,000 budget. It's got that 38 millimeter case size, this specific reference. So a vast amount of people can wear this watch, whether you're a big guy or, you know, maybe an average size dude like us. Like, you can wear this watch and it'll look good. It's got Hardlex crystal, which I wish they would use sapphire, but, you know, for the price point, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know? The only thing that, in my opinion, that, you know, doesn't really pan out with this watch is the 100 meters of water resistance. But if you're going to wear this as an everyday watch, you know, like, that's fine. That's really all you need.
Unless you're not diving every single day.
Yeah, if you're not dive qualified in the military, you're not like a recon diver or something, you know, you're fine. You're okay. But it's automatic. It's powered by the Seiko 4R36. It's got 41 hours of power reserve, day-to-day functionality, as you can see in the picture, and it's anti-magnetic to 60 Gauss. So nowhere near an Omega, but, like, you know, magnetic fields probably won't affect this thing. It's just a really inconspicuous dive-style watch that looks good in uniform, and it's not going to get called out by anybody. I'm pretty sure Garcia in our shop
has that.
Yeah, he has that watch. Like, he saw me wearing my Submariner, or no, he saw me wearing my Seamaster one day, and he pointed it out, and he started, like, looking at watches, and he settled on one of these.
You know, we've gotten a few people into watches just
Really?
from working there. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a handful of the junior guys.
Nice.
I've seen them all show up, and some of them have even picked up some Hamiltons and stuff like that.
Nice. That's
So,
badass.
I definitely think that was partially our doing.
Nice. Good. It's good to see that, you know, it's good to see people getting into it, you know.
Yeah. Join the club.
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe we can invite some of them on the show one time.
That'd be good.
Yeah. All right, next category. So we're still sticking under $1,000 total, but this is going to be the operational / field category. And the considerations for this one are that you're really going to want to make sure that you have, like, functionality and that this watch is tough and durable, because you know, anything could happen on a deployment, anything could happen in the field. You know, and it doesn't, at that point, looks don't really matter. It's more so about function. Yeah.
So for me, what I went with, what makes the most sense, I feel like in this lower end, you know, sub 1,000 for these three watches, is a G-Shock. I didn't say a specific model number for this or a specific reference. just any sort of G-Shock you can find, you know, between $100 to $200.
Yeah.
Even cheaper. I saw some that were like $70
Mhm.
that perfectly fit, and I have countless friends and higher ups that walk around wearing G-Shocks.
Mhm.
You know, that's what they're known for. You can just beat them up and pretty much do whatever you want to it, and it's still going to function perfectly.
Mhm.
So I think at the entry level, it makes the most sense, you know, as what any active military personnel would want, you know, as a field watch.
Yeah, I don't think that there's really anything
Quintessential.
Yeah, anything more quintessential for a tough beater watch that you're going to take out to anything serious than a G-Shock. Like I said this the last time we spoke when we were going over our watch collections. My G-Shock exists solely in my collection as the piece that I'll take with me if I were to ever like go out on a deployment or something or do anything serious. And that's why it's on my list too. So you can see here I have the GWM 5610-1. This watch is $150. It's solar powered. It's got a 46.7 millimeter case size, 200 meters of water resistance, and it's got multiband 6 atomic timekeeping. So it's a radio controlled watch. So it's going to be more accurate than basically anything else out there. It's going to beat a mechanical watch and a quartz watch by a mile in terms of accuracy. You're just not going to find anything else available on the market today that is as accurate as a radio controlled G-Shock.
I see you chose the one with the more squared or rectangular designs.
Yeah.
Personal preference, I lean towards the more circular ones. That's just kind of what I like.
Yeah.
But like you said, most of these G-Shock watches at this price point all have these same functionalities, you know, in terms of accuracy and, you know, what it provides to you.
Yeah.
So you can't go wrong either way. It's just personal preference. I think that's another great thing about G-Shock as a whole is part of why I didn't choose a specific reference number.
Yeah.
Is because you go on Casio's website, you could see, you know.
Yeah, there's a very, very long list.
So many
of
different.
G-Shocks, yeah,
absolutely.
That you could choose from that fit within this price category. You know, and they'll just work. Like you don't need it to look great. Like they do look great, but like you know that's a side effect. It's just an after effect, really.
You know you're getting a reliable product, but there's some room for individual choice in terms of what you get as well.
I chose the bare bones, like super basic G-Shock with you know it looks pretty standard, and the squared off design is really just a personal preference thing. But at the end of the day, like the specs that you know this thing has got, like you can see it on the list right there. It's just so ridiculously specced out, and it's got so much more things than you could possibly need. That you know, I mean, really, like when you look at a watch like the GWM 5610 or again any other G-Shock reference, like that could be a one watch collection. It's a weird term to say, like one watch collection is not a collection, but you could just get that watch alone and that would be it.
You'd be set.
Yeah, you'd be set. As long as you don't have to go to a black tie for it, then that's what our next category is going to be for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but before we move on to that, you know, like this watch is 200 meters water resistant, so it could be a dive watch if you needed it to be. Again, it's got that multiband 6 atomic timekeeping. It's shock resistant, of course. It's a G-Shock. It's got a countdown timer, a chronograph, a world timer, so you can track 48 different cities. And then it also has your day-date function as well. And it's just, yeah, I don't think we need to beat this dead horse anymore. G-Shock is, if you want to save money,
Get a G-Shock.
Yeah, just get a freaking G-Shock, okay? Get a G-Shock. Okay. But with that being said, let's move on to probably what's going to be the least worn watches, or the least worn category in any like service member's collection, and that's going to be the dress and formal watch. So, what was your pick for budget end?
So to round off this collection, I went with an Orient. I chose the Orient Bambino. I went with the 38 millimeter, just because me personally, it would fit my wrist a little bit better. But you have two different sizes for these. You have either the 38 or I believe it's a 40 or 41 millimeter. But it's just that it's a beautiful dress watch that's automatic, has an open case back so you can actually see the movement, you know, when you take the watch off. A few different color options for it, and coming in at only $270, you know, for this. It's a very high quality watch, I think, for what you're getting. I've been seeing Orient's name pop up
Yeah.
countless times
Mhm.
over the last few years, and if you were to go and get yourself one, it's similar to the G-Shock in that I think for a budget dress watch,
Mhm.
it's another one of those you can't go wrong with this option. That's why I put it on the list,
Mhm.
and I definitely see myself purchasing one of these watches at some point.
I really like this black dial Bambino
Mm-hmm.
with the stainless steel casing.
And that's the other thing too is you go on Orient's website, and the Bambino itself is what Orient is known for,
Mhm.
and they have so many different variants
Mhm.
in terms of dial or band. Usually it's like a leather bracelet you'd be getting with it.
Yeah.
But the affordability of it, you're gonna get a nice quality dress watch, with a legitimate movement. It's not quartz, and to me that just kind of legitimizes it as an actual dress watch.
Yeah.
So I would say Orient Bambino specifically to round off the entry level budget.
Yeah, and I haven't I've only seen one Bambino reference before, and it was like it was this one. It was like the cream dial.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at.
Yeah, I really like the amount of variety that they have
Absolutely.
in these selections in this family of watches. Like, because they've got right now I'm looking at like a mint green dial with gold hour markers and stainless steel case, and then there's a cream dial here with black markers, and it comes on a Milanese style bracelet. And I was mentioning earlier, like this stainless steel black leather and black dial variant. Like, I would probably go for that because that's more along my speed. But there's just if in terms of a dress watch, there's a lot of options to go for here, and yeah, you definitely can't go wrong looking at this.
I think price point wise too, if you really wanted to and you really like the watch, say you got one of these, you could always buy another Bambino down the road with a different dial, a different strap on it.
Yeah.
Because the price range is only like $250 to $350 for one of these watches.
Yeah.
So.
And I think something that's important to note about dress watches too is that not every dress watch is going to fit every occasion.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you go to a formal occasion in daytime, this is very like old world style traditional. But if you go to a formal event in daytime, typically the watch that you want to wear to that is going to be like a dress watch with a lighter dial, or a white dial ideally. And Orient does have options that are available in that category that fit that mold. But as I just mentioned, if you're going to go to like a nighttime event like a gala or something, or the Marine Corps Ball in our case, then you want a black dial or a dark dial to kind of fit the occasion.
Exactly.
Yeah, because Marine Corps balls are always in the evening. They always hold them at like cocktail hour starts at 17. The ceremony starts at 6 p.m. So now you have to be in black tie. And then it goes from there, and it lasts through the evening, and as long as you can basically drink for.
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. As long as your liver will last, that's how long the ball goes for. Yeah. But for my pick for a dress watch, within the $1,000 budget, I chose a German brand, and I don't even know very much about this brand, but I saw this watch, right? It's the Sternglass Esthete white dial reference. I'm not gonna read the reference. I'll put a note up later on. It's a lot of numbers and letters, but it's a Sternglass Esthete.
It's very simple, minimalistic kind of design to it.
Yeah, and it's got that same Bauhaus aesthetic as you mentioned like the last time we did a video.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking.
It's just so simple. It's so clean and classic. There's no way that you wouldn't look good wearing this in your dress uniform. Like if you're wearing dress blues or your service uniform, it's going to blend in. And yeah, it may not turn some heads because of how simple it is, but
this is the first time you've seen this brand before, Sternglass?
I've watched videos on them from Teddy Baldessar before.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the first time that I've really had any exposure to this brand specifically.
German, you said?
Yeah, they're German.
Okay.
So they're coming from the same places as Lange and Glashütte original, like and Nomos, like they're all coming out of Germany, and I think that in the mainstream like non-watch space, like German watches are very, very underappreciated.
Definitely.
Yeah. This watch has 40 millimeters in case size. It's 48 millimeters lug to lug, so it's going to be a little thicker, it's going to be a little bit wider than most standard dress watches. It's going to be on the larger end for sure, but with an 8.5 millimeter thickness, it'll definitely slide under a dress cuff very, very easily. It's got sapphire crystal. It's 15 meters water resistant. Not that really matters for a dress watch, but still, it's automatic, 42 hours of power reserve. And it's stainless steel construction with a black leather strap that can be changed out. So it freaking works.
Can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
It's a good choice. What did you say this one costs?
This costs $489
Okay.
MSRP. So it
definitely takes the majority of your budget. But
yeah,
it's
it
a
takes
dress
the majority
watch.
of the budget. Yeah. I don't think unless we're talking about the Orient, like you don't really if you're going to make a collection under $1,000, you want to get the most bang for your. I think you want to get the most bang for your buck in terms of your dress watch.
Absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting more money towards your dress watch.
Yeah.
Than the other couple options.
Absolutely, and you can make sacrifices in the other categories. Too, in order to get something that's very high quality for a dress watch. Like you can switch out the G-Shock for maybe like a Timex or something.
You'll see later on as we go higher in the budgets. Once you have more expendable cash, you can kind of have more fun and be more free to say like, hey, I want my everyday watch to cost a hell of a lot more than it needs to. But again, we're working with the most practical budget right now.
Yeah.
And what makes the most sense is, you can afford to spend a couple $100 extra on that dress piece.
Yeah.
And then your everyday, you don't need to break the bank on it. I understand that the Hamilton, hey, that would take up half the budget too. But that's just kind of like a passion.
Yeah, it's all.
Mine.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about personal preference here.
Exactly.
And even though you only have $1,000 to work with in this category, like you can move things around a little bit, and you can make some sacrifices in some areas so that you can get the most value from a particular watch. But with that being said, let's open it up a bit, or a lot rather, because we're increasing the budget by 10 times. So we're going mid-range now, and we're going to be talking about watches under $10,000. So I'll let you start off with the Garrison watch.
Okay, so I chose to go with the Omega Railmaster.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so this one was kind of unplanned, choosing this watch.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, no, so this came from, I was telling you, I was down at Omega just the other day. That one in specific, actually. So part of why I like this is you can get it on a NATO strap, which is what I would recommend. So say you're doing this for, service member.
Yeah.
NATO strap makes the most sense. It's probably going to go the best in uniform. If you look at the dial of it, it's got a similar kind of field aesthetic or a field look to it. I hadn't known about this model from Omega until I was down in their store just a week and a half ago. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this watch is beautiful. And apparently this model's been around, for 5-6 decades now.
Yeah.
For me, it's just a new piece to me, and I saw it and automatically was like, I think that would go perfect. And I understand that at $5,400, that's quite pricey for an everyday watch.
On an everyday watch,
and it's an Omega, but I figured, hey, we're working with the $10,000 budget, and if you want to have a nice everyday watch, this one just seems like a really nice piece to me. So that's why I went with it.
I like the way there's a lot of stuff going on in the dial, because you've got that like sector design, that like those little crosshairs in the center. But then you also have the 12, 3, 6, and 9.
The crosshairs stand out to me.
Yeah, the crosshairs that lead to the numbers. I think it really adds a lot of legibility to the watch, so that you can quickly acquire the time.
I meant to mention too. It's got the what is it they call their new movements? The master chronometer. The master chronometer movement in it. So like the quality of movement and the accuracy you're going to get out of this piece too is unmatched and the best that Omega has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also what makes this extremely appealing.
Yeah,
The anti-magnetism.
Yeah, if you want to really, like, if you've got the money to spend, right, and you want a good quality everyday watch, you need to make sure that it is going to be able to stand up to that the everyday abuse, right? Because
Exactly.
in like magnetism is increasingly relevant to the whole discussion around watches. Like our smartphones have magnets, and the iPhone 15 and the iPhone 14 have literal magnets on the case or on the back sides. Like those are magnets right there in your pocket. If you put the watch in your pocket, you might end up magnetizing it if you're not careful.
And I feel like as a service member, the likelihood of you being of your work taking place around magnets would be a bit more likely or a bit more higher.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and if you're working around like electronics or like radar screens like we do, then you're gonna be exposed to some level of magnetism from that technology, and so that's something that you have to account for in an everyday watch. How much water resistance does this have? Do you know?
I want to say it's 10 bar. I want to say
10 bar. 15 bar. So you've got 150 meters of water resistance, and that's more than most humans can survive. So this watch will definitely cover you in terms of like water resistance and anti-magnetism. So it's a great choice. And I think this would look great on a NATO strap for sure.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. As a service member, I recommend going with the NATO strap, and that's what I like about Omega 2 is if you walk into one of their ADs, they have a whole section, like a whole box that you can just pull out and look at like 30, 40, 50 different NATO straps that they have. Obviously not all would be like authorized in uniform. Yeah. But your options are there if you want it.
Yeah. The thing with this our entire list, right, is that like these watches do have to be acceptable for wearing uniform. In any branch's regulations, you'll notice that there is a section in the uniform regulations about what watches are acceptable for wear and what aren't. And it's not always like crystal clear, but the general idea, at least for the Marine Corps, is that the watches have to be inconspicuous in design. So you can't be wearing, like, even if you could afford it, you couldn't walk into the shop wearing your Richard Mille.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, you'd probably get yelled at if you tried anything like that. So, being inconspicuous and just like mastering the art of subtlety in this case is key.
You don't want to have anything that's too over the top.
Yeah, because if you get noticed, at best you're going to get yelled at by your supervisor. Yeah. And at worst, somebody's going to take that watch from you and probably not get it back.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, for me, the watch I chose was the Marathon G-SAR. So I'm sure you know what it looks like. I don't want to pull up the picture right now. I want to keep this going. But the Marathon G-SAR, specifically the 41mm version, I recommend the one that doesn't have any government markings. Because on Marathon's website, you can choose like to get an EGA on there, or like the Air Force's crest on there.
When I was looking around.
Yeah, or you can get the words like U.S. government put on the dial. I don't think that if you're a service member, unless you're like a super motivated boot, like I don't think you should go for that because ideally if you were, and this could double as your deployment watch too. Like this watch gets issued to Marshall.
You'll see later on one of the other picks I have comparable to this one.
Yeah, this watch gets issued to like guys in MARSOC and people that go out and do serious stuff. You don't always want to advertise your affiliation to the U.S. government when you're wearing by simply wearing your watch, right? So I think that keeping the dial sterile is important for a Garrison watch. So I went with this one. It's $1,800 at MSRP. Actually, by the way, how much was the Omega?
The Omega was $5,400.
$5,400.
Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of the fact that that's pretty pricey.
Yeah.
For an everyday watch, but I figured if you're wearing it every day, you may as well
you'll get your use out of it, and the cost per wear will go down.
Another side note, speaking in relation to these three kinds of watches we're talking about, I know earlier on we were saying like, the dressier watches, it's okay to spend a little bit more on. I would say also the operational watches that you'd be willing to take out into the field. and beat up a little bit more, I think that would be on the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's like you might not want to be like breaking the bank on a field watch, because if you are, really like rowdy and beating the hell out of it, you want to be able to replace that watch if need be.
Yeah.
So obviously, as we get into the higher end, you'll see we'd be willing to spend more on that, but that's only if you have that cash.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like you need to know that if you're going to buy a field watch, you can replace it.
Yeah, the upfront cost isn't always everything. You got to think about like the cost to replace it if you lose it, and even if you don't lose it, if it just gets damaged or something like, then you have to think about servicing costs.
Yeah.
Servicing is crucial. Like we were just having a discussion earlier about how much it costs to service a Rolex, and
it's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap. But you could buy the cost to service a Rolex. Like you could get my entire collection for that price.
Exactly.
It's like about $1,200. So you don't want to be taking like a really, really expensive watch out on a deployment, even if you could reasonably afford it. You may end up with a pretty hefty price tag on the back end if something were to happen. And enough about that. Back to the Marathon, right? Like this is a tool watch. It was purpose built for like government employees and search and rescue types and special operators. Like it's purpose built for that. It only makes sense to include that on here. You've got sapphire crystal. You've got I believe 200 meters of water resistance. It's $1,800 on the bracelet and then $1,500 on the rubber strap. And with the prices of some NATO straps being what they are, you can easily put it on a NATO strap and then be absolutely sure that it's not going to fall off your wrist if something happens to it. And I think the best part about about Marathon in general, not just the G-Star, but Marathon's watches in general, is that the dials of those Marathons have tritium tubes that have a half-life of around like 12 years or so, which is longer than you'll probably own the watch for. That's over half of a military guy's career.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what lighting conditions you're in, you'll be able to read the watch and know the time instantly, no matter what. Like Superluminova dies after a while. It dies after a few hours.
Yeah.
But tritium doesn't. It'll just constantly glow, regardless of whether or not there's a light source.
It's very important for a service member, especially if you're in that operating environment where needing to see your time immediately is necessary.
Yeah, military operations, whether they be in garrison or whether they be in the field, are almost always time bound. So having good situational awareness of the time and what it is and how much time has elapsed is very important. And I think Marathon fits that role perfectly.
Yeah, just before coming over here, I was looking a bit more into Marathon as a whole. And like you were saying, purpose-built, their whole history is founded on serving the military and providing timepieces for the military.
Yeah.
They started in Canada, and now their watches, I believe, they're made in Switzerland. But originally, their whole thing was producing watches for the GIs back in World War II. Fighting over in Europe. So this is what they specialize in. So like you said, you can't go wrong with a watch from Marathon. And you'll see with one of my picks later on,
Yeah, this kind of space is really just their bread and butter. Last point about light discipline. A lot of the watches that we talk about have like polished surfaces, right? Like my Explorer 2 has polished surface on it. So in a certain environment, if I was trying to be like tactical and like low profile, I wouldn't want the light reflecting off of my watch and then giving away my position. The nice thing about the G-Star specifically is that all of its surfaces are brushed, so it's not going to reflect light as much as you would like with a more conventional watch. Moving on, let's talk operational. What is your pick?
So for me, in the mid-level, I chose the Garmin Mark Adventurer Generation 2. I would say kind of similar to what I was getting with the G-Shock in the entry level, is that any Garmin is just going to be a step up in terms of what it provides to you. So not saying this model in specific is what you would have to go with. It's just one of the more higher end level Garmins that you can get, where it basically has all the bells and whistles, every sort of GPS feature. I think I read it has a 16-day battery life, on a charge because it's a smartwatch.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And now the thing is, when you're talking about a watch like this for an operational kind of guy, I don't think there's anything taking away saying like, oh, hey, it's a smartwatch. It's like we're not focused on that so much as what the capabilities of this watch provides. And the thing is, the list goes on and on. I was reading through, everything that this watch features, and it's, in my opinion, it's perfect for military personnel in terms of fitness and like environmental awareness.
There's guys in our shop who wear Garmin's regularly. Like, I'm pretty sure like Lavender and Brozek on the other crew both wear Garmin's.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I know a few folks that have Garmin's as well,
Yeah.
and I was kind of surprised at first hearing before I looked into Garmin myself that much in terms of how much they cost. The one I chose, the Adventure Gen 2, this thing costs $2,100.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is pricey.
That is pricey. Yeah, that's more than one I chose.
Yeah, that's pricey for a smartwatch. But here's the thing: is like you could get really any watch from Garmin.
Yeah.
What you need to be paying attention to is, I'd say because it's a smartwatch, that battery life you're going to get, because depending on the environment you would be operating or working in, what you need for your mission and your purpose.
Yeah.
As well as, ensuring that it has all the functionality that you would need, for your kinds of operations.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing, honestly, is the GPS capabilities and how well it's able to pinpoint, where you're at location-wise. That's an unmatched feature that you're not going to get in most watches.
No, absolutely not. And just to clarify, like, you've got orienteering, so you can get terrain orientation based off of this watch. You can, you've got full GPS capabilities. You've got ski maps. Not that you're going to be skiing on an operation, right? But like, still, you've got turn-by-turn navigation. You've got round-trip routing. You've got multiple like topographic map layovers so that you can see. I'm reading these specs off of the website, but it's like it's just endless. The amount of capability that is like jam packed into this watch, and then other watches from the brand. Like you'd be stupid not to go for a Garmin.
Exactly. No, I appreciate you going through the list because this is the same bit I was going through.
Yeah.
I just didn't have all of it written down.
Yeah.
But
and for my entry, I have some stuff written down there too, so we can definitely like circle back around to that. But yeah.
More than anything, the list of capabilities for Garmin watches goes on and on. And though they can be a bit pricey, you can find some that are a little bit affordable. This just happens to be, the one that's top tier.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend Garmin
Yeah.
as an operational watch to anybody that needs those extra features.
Yeah. And I think it's important that we talk about Garmin too in general, and the fact that smartwatches are on our list. Because like in general, like the last time we made jokes about Apple Watches not being in the collection, right? Go check that video out if you haven't. But the thing is, right, when you were talking about like an actual like need and a genuine use case for something, you're going to need to put aside these romantic notions of, oh, a mechanical watch is so beautiful, like I want to take a mechanical watch out there, the cool factor. Like, you have to put that stuff aside for a moment. And
function over form with this.
Yeah, exactly. You have to think about function over form and really just put what exactly it is you need at the forefront before anything else. Like it would obviously be very cool if you could take a Rolex out in combat or an Omega out there, like and feel like James Bond, right?
Yeah.
But how much use does James Bond really get out of his watches if he's not telling the time?
And with the modern environment we're working with, technology and these capabilities, they're unavoidable, and you shouldn't be looking at them as something like, oh, you don't want to let in. That's just the way things are developing.
Yeah.
So we should be welcoming products like this.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, this is totally separate from your average run-of-the-mill smartwatch. It's not a Fitbit and it's not an Apple Watch.
It's not an Apple Watch. It's not a Fitbit. It doesn't have those same security issues.
The way I would view it is as the marathons were to the previous generation, in terms of being a field military watch. This is the technological next generation version of those kinds of watches that carry all these new capabilities.
Yeah, freaking Marathon is like millennial and like Garmin's Gen Z.
Exactly.
Almost, yeah.
It's just the next step.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see it. And there's nothing wrong with either of these brands or either of the products they provide. It's just my perspective and way of viewing you know, a watch like this. I don't have anything against it. I think they're great pieces.
Yeah, I have to agree. I can't see a disadvantage to taking a Garmin out there.
Mhm.
Now, granted, you may have to get your Garmin like cleared by your security manager.
True.
But that's an easy process, right? Like you can just take it over there and get it cleared, and then you can pretty much take it anywhere you need to if you're catching my drift. You know?
Yeah.
But
battery life too. The
Yeah.
fact that so for example, your Apple Watch might be like a day and a half.
Mhm.
Whereas one of these, 16 days, that's half a month, and you're rarely ever out on a field op for more than like a week or so tops.
And it's
you know?
safe to assume that this is a bit tougher than an Apple Watch, right? Like I don't
Absolutely.
own this one, but like just by looking at it, you can assume that this thing is tougher than
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
If you smash this against like I don't know a Connex watch or something, like it's gonna hurt it, but it's not gonna destroy the dial like it would on an Apple Watch.
the analogy I would give it is like a Nokia.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
my mind goes
Yeah,
to.
this is like the Nokia of smartwatches. for
Exactly.
sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
You bang it against the concrete and the concrete breaks. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's got everything you need in a long-lasting battery.
Yeah, absolutely. Does this have solar powered features? Is this solar powered?
I don't know if this exact model is, but
Mhm.
I know there's Garmin's that are solar powered.
Yeah.
So like I said, forgive me if the options I'm listing are too general, not specific enough.
Mhm.
But I'm just trying to point you guys in the right direction, just in terms of maybe more so certain brands
Yeah.
you would want to be looking out for
Mhm.
as a military guy. That would favor the kind of product you would be looking for.
Yeah, it's all going to depend on your specific use case. An air traffic controller or an IT specialist is going to need something different than special forces or
Exactly.
a SWIC or a SEAL. Like everybody's just going to need something a little bit different.
Mhm.
So having a more general idea, brand wise, is going to be I would think would be more useful to viewers than like something like Uber specific, like no, get this Seiko SRPK 29 or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're like in that general ballpark, you're pretty much good to go. But with that being said, for the interests of having content to talk about, like we are naming specific references.
Exactly.
So with that being said, I want to talk about my entry on this, and I'm about to eat my words in terms of everything I said about smartwatches. But for my operational pick under $10,000, I went with the Sangen Instruments Merlin.
Uh-huh.
And this watch it's simple, it's no nonsense, it's very low profile because you can see like it's got that brushed finish to it, and
Another
then
diver.
it also has it's another diver. It's got that DOC coating on it, but it is tougher than almost any other watch out there
Mm.
on the market, and this watch I think it's the only quartz powered watch that I have on this list other than the G-Shock.
Okay.
But the reason I chose a quartz watch for this operational timepiece is because of the fact that quartz is just generally higher accuracy than mechanical watches.
Mm-hmm.
With quartz, the standard deviation is around like 10 to 30 seconds a month,
Mhm.
usually. With a mechanical watch, like the most accurate mechanical watches out there are Rolex, and that's plus or minus 2 seconds a day.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love Rolex and as much of a fanboy of Rolex as I am,
Grand Seiko.
yeah, Grand Seiko. Spring Drive is actually quartz technology though, so they're kind of like in a gray area.
Mm.
Grand Seiko is in a bit of a gray area in terms of like their movement technology.
That's true.
But Grand Seiko is a great option
Mhm.
in general. But the reason I didn't include Grand Seiko's Spring Drive on this list is because in terms of like operationally, their designs don't fit that mold.
Mhm.
You couldn't take a Grand Seiko on deployment. Like they always talk about the Zaratsu polishing. Like I don't know if they mentioned that to you at Ben Bridge,
Mhm.
but the polishing on those watches is so high level and so like clean and perfect. Like you would instantly get spotted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see later on. I did end up picking a Grand Seiko.
Mhm.
It's just not for operational.
Yeah,
and I would
right,
agree
yeah.
with
Mhm.
what you're saying. That it's like, time and place, not the right environment for
Yeah.
something like that.
If I'm trying to avoid detection, or,
Doesn't
like,
fit
get-
that.
Yeah, they're gonna see that from a mile away. I'm probably gonna get shot.
Don't want to be showing off your flashy watch.
Yeah, hey, look at my snowflake, and then
Yeah.
you die. Yeah. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to edit that part out. I don't know how sensitive YouTube is nowadays, but we'll see. But going back to the Sangen Instruments, right? It's a dive style watch, but you can also change out the bezel for like a 12-hour style bezel, like on James Bond's Omega.
Okay.
So you can use it as like both a dive watch or a travel time watch.
Okay.
And it's quartz powered again, so the movement's not going to die on you randomly, and it's solar powered too, so the movement's definitely not going to die on you. As long as you're out in the sun every now and then, it's not going to die.
I like that, the solar powered options. First time I ever saw that was my grandpa out in Las Vegas. He had a Seiko that was solar powered.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen something like that, but to me it's just, it makes sense as something, you know, hey, it's always going to be there, it's always going to be running, as long as you're not a complete hermit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, solar powered, I think solar powered quartz is just, it's, you know, it's super innovative, and you know, it's, you marry two things that are great on their own, and you get something even greater.
You're not going to be sitting there worrying like, hey, is my watch going to be running tomorrow?
Yeah.
You have that assurance and peace of mind. Like, you don't even have to think that.
Yeah, like you put your watch down to go to a working party, you know, and then like you come back and it's dead, and it's like,
what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're trying to ask someone, hey, what's the time, so you can reset it.
Yeah. Hey man, do you have the time? Do you have your iPhone on? No, we're on deployment.
Exactly.
Get out of here, yeah. But this watch is 40 millimeters in case size. It's got 300 meters water resistance. So this is a true dive watch right here. And you've got your date function. It's a very, very simple design overall. But the fact, like all of these like fairly mundane attributes compounded together just make this like a great option to take on deployment. Because if you think about the things you would do on deployment, right? Like you're going to be doing manual labor. You're going to be setting up your tents for everyone to sleep in. You're going to be, you know, filling HESCO barriers. You're going to be You might be shooting. You know, you're going to be doing a lot of active stuff that could be potentially damaging to an automatic watch or a mechanical watch. You want to make sure that the watch you are wearing is able to stand up to that abuse, and this watch can do that for sure. So, with that being said, let's move on to dress.
Okay, so for me, personally, what I went with, as you know, and if y'all watched the last video where I was here, I like Longines a lot.
Actually, sorry, wait, one last thing about, I hate to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
But the only thing that sucks about this company is that they are constantly sold out. So
I did see that, you know.
Yeah, they're $549 at retail, but honestly, they're harder to get than Rolex.
Really?
Yeah, they're harder to get because they did a drop 2 days ago. Sorry, they did a drop 4 days ago. They released 2 of the watches on their site, and they sold out in 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, I was looking at it. I was like almost about to pull the trigger and refresh the page, and then sold out, gone, like completely gone. So if you want a Sangen Instruments, you need to act fast. You need to have the money and your credit card on hand, ready to like type in. Yeah. So
on demand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry. Go on about dress.
So for my dress watch pick, as you know, I like Longines quite a bit. I went with the Longines flagship Heritage. If you can pull up an image of it. So this watch comes in at right around $1,900, and then suppose with my prior entry, the Garmin, say you got a cheaper Garmin, they also have a moon phase option, which is right around $3,000. That's also available. See, that's the moon phase one I was referring to.
Nice. Very beautiful.
There's a few different colors for this. It's a 38.5 millimeter automatic movement. I really like Longines as a brand. As I was saying to you earlier, I view Longines as the kind of company out there where if you just want a high quality Swiss watch, you know, with none of the extra fluff, no craziness to it, and you just know you're getting a good product, you go with Longines.
Yeah.
And for the price you're paying too, like sure you're going to be dishing out, you know, $2-3 grand for one of these watches, but comparatively to some of these other companies out there, you know, you're paying twice that for the same run-of-the-mill, you know, Swiss watch.
Yeah.
And that's just not necessary, especially at this price point that we're talking, you know, the sub $10,000 collection. So a big part of why I went with this, again, is brand. You know, me just saying that I think Longines is a great option. And they have a few other dress watches out there. This is just, even in the name, it's called the flagship Heritage.
Yeah.
and it's also not too large of a piece either. You know, coming in at 38.5 millimeter.
That's
You know,
great. That's a great size.
It'll fit great on almost anyone's wrists. So yeah, that's why I chose that one. And then again, I think, you know, coming on a leather strap, whether it be like black or brown, whatever color it is, that's almost an essential when you're picking a dress watch.
Yeah, I think leather straps are pretty much, I would say leather straps are pretty much an absolute must-have on any dress watch. Like there's dress watches out there that exist that do come on like metal bracelets, but if you want to max out like the classiness factor in a dress watch, you need leather.
Absolutely.
You need to go for leather, and ideally it would be black leather.
I would say it's a mandatory part of the look.
Yeah, especially if you're wearing black tie. A lot of people, right, and this is more of like a general style principle, but you'll see this on the red carpet too. Like people will walk out onto the red carpet and they'll have like these wild, crazy ass like versions of tuxedos going on, and it's like
super ostentatious,
super out there. And
you got to think
you don't
too.
know what you're doing, you know.
With being in the military, I understand there's a lot of obviously uniformity to it, but also like tradition in terms of we value a classical look that doesn't fade and like has history behind it.
Yeah, he says he's wearing his amazing logo
I know.
shirt. Yeah,
I know. But for these kinds of events, you know, where you're around all these other service members, you really have to play your part and play your role in terms of fitting in. You know, whether or not people like hearing that. You know, we're not, you know, these celebrities in the Met Gala or any of that showing off crazy outfits and crazy looks. And that's why I'm saying your accessories, like a watch, should play the part.
Exactly.
You know, and go along with that uniform. So a timeless look, like a simple dress watch like this, you know, is the right pick. You don't want to be doing anything crazy out there.
Yeah, there's a certain level of decorum that's required. Like, you know, after the ceremony's over, everyone kind of like lets loose and just goes freaking wild because they have too much alcohol in their system.
Yeah.
But prior to that point, you know, there is a certain, you know, level of professionalism and decorum that is always required wherever you are in the military, but especially at, you know, a black tie affair like the Marine Corps ball, you have to behave a certain way. You have to look the part, like you said. Your uniform has to be dry cleaned and pressed. It has to be properly tailored to fit your body.
Because even though you can let down some of the professionalism, you know, all grades in the room, you know, low ranking to high ranking, you still have to play that part and respect that.
Yeah, there's a baseline expectation for appearance and behavior that needs to be met before you can, you know, start to relax a little bit and have some fun.
And in regards to something like what we're talking about, watches, you walk in to an event like this, like the ball, you know, wearing something on like a bright green leather strap, people are going to look at you and be like, what the hell is that? Take it off.
Yeah, that's literally what they're going to say. Like if I see, you know, a guy walk in with like the example you just gave, like a Richard Mille on a green leather strap, like that's not going to work. You know, it's not fitting. It's
even
not
though
fitting
it's
with
considered a dress watch.
Right, yeah. People wear that on the red carpet all the time in black tie. Right?
It doesn't fit the part as a military member.
Not at all. Not at all. It just doesn't.
More classical looks is kind of what we need.
Yeah, you can wear that any other time. You can wear that in your civilian clothes on your off time when nobody actually cares. But like if you're going to show up to a formal event, like the Marine Corps ball or any other branch's ball, then you need to look the part. And I don't think we can beat that dead horse enough, really. I don't think we can overstate the importance of traditionalism and having a professional demeanor.
Absolutely.
And just being professional, looking professional.
The point behind that, of at least what I'm trying to make, is that there's definitely a trend in the direction of, you know, individualism and being as ostentatious as you can. And the thing is, like, power to you. There's nothing wrong with that. But the part that I think a lot of people don't like is that when you do have to go back to playing that role of like, no one cares. We don't want you to stand out. You have to fit in.
Yeah, you have to blend in. Yeah.
And be, like you said, inconspicuous, you know? That's the main crux of it, is it's like, you shouldn't view that as, oh, you know, poor me, I can't wear my crazy out there looks and this and that. Or in regards to your watches, take your time looking through those classical dress watches and find one that speaks to you.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's, maybe a bit more muted in style or muted in design, still fits you.
Yeah. There's still a way to be an individual and be personalized within the space of wearing a dress watch.
There's
enough variety out there.
A lot more detail in the room than you would think.
Yes, yeah. It's just minor details that fit the larger scope of what is expected.
Exactly.
And there's a time and place to be an individual and rock your RM if you can afford that, right? But
like when you're wearing the Aloha shirt.
Exactly. But the Marine Corps ball or any other formal affair in the military, that is not the place. Yeah, you gotta blend in. You gotta look the part, like you said. And that's why I like this watch too. I've never seen this watch before, but I genuinely enjoy just looking at it. And I would actually like to go try it on the wrist one day.
No, absolutely. I may pick up one of these myself too at some point because you've heard me saying I want to get a Moon Phase.
Yeah.
So.
It's too bad the Longines store closed down.
I know, and I don't know if I mentioned it already, but here on Oahu, where we're at, that's one of the biggest bummers. Is I bought a couple of watches at Longines already, and then Tourneau, the other authorized dealer of Longines, as well as a handful of other watchmakers. Both places are closed down now. So on the whole island of Oahu, we're kind of at a standstill with Longines.
Yeah, really. It kind of it sucks to see, and with Tourneau closing down, that really sucks, because they had a very wide selection of stuff, and they were stocking brands that Benbridge wasn't stocking. The two major ADs on the island are Tourneau and Benbridge, and Benbridge they're only so large, right? They're a nationwide brand, but they only have so many brands under their umbrella that they have contracts with. Tourneau was able to fill that gap, and now that they're not on the island right now, there's rumors of them coming back, but right now, in the current state of affairs, they're not on the island, so guys like us here on Oahu don't have access to those brands, which I think is a shame. Because Longines is great. Longines really is amazing. Side note, they actually used to stock Vacheron Constantin.
Really?
Yeah, and of the major Holy Trinity brands.
Are you saying at Benbridge?
At Tourneau.
Okay, I do remember seeing a few Vacheron there.
Yeah, I would that's my favorite Holy Trinity brand, quote unquote. If they were still around, I'd probably be on the list for one right now. Yeah. God forbid I ever get the call for it though, because I can't afford that.
I was gonna say it's expensive,
right? Yeah, I think their entry level model is $12,000. Yeah,
I was gonna say that sounds about right.
Yeah,
at least above $10,000.
Absolutely. They're in the Holy Trinity. They rate to make their prices that high. Yeah, but this is a great watch, and it fits the occasion very well.
Definitely.
Mine is my choice for this category of sub 10,000 dress watch. If you notice, the Marathon and the Sangen Instruments, they took up a very, very, very small portion of my budget.
Yeah.
The Marathon was $1,800. The Sangen Instruments is $549. So that's not very much out of 10,000. But I went for the Omega Speedmaster, the Moonwatch master chronometer on black leather, as we were talking about. Black leather straps are kind of necessary.
I was looking at Speedmasters, and the thing was, the only reason I didn't pick it is it can be dressed up and it can be a dress watch, but personally, the only reason I didn't pick it is because it's a bit more of a sportier kind of watch.
Yeah.
But on black leather, like you're saying, it works.
Yeah,
it does.
On the bracelet, in my opinion, it's just way too sporty. Even if I put it on the bracelet and then put it on my dress blues, I don't think that the Speedmaster would be able to match the level of formality that the dress blues convey. Because when you're wearing your dress blues, and there's different variations of them too for staff NCOs and officers, but for an enlisted E5 and below set of dress blues, I have them right there actually. I can probably show them on camera.
You're hardly going to be seeing your watch anyways, because your sleeves are going to be covering it almost the whole time anyways.
But this is a set of dress blues, right? This is the coat. It's a dress blue alpha coat with medals on it. That's what makes it the alphas. It has the medals on the left side and then the ribbons on the right side. This is basically your tuxedo. This is essentially the same level of formality as a regular civilian's tuxedo.
Yeah.
There's nothing more classy than this.
I would say, to attest to the point we were making earlier about your watches having that more traditional, classical, timeless look, specifically with that uniform and out of respect for that uniform too, whatever accessories or watch or whatever it may be that you pair with it is very important in my opinion.
Mhm.
You know, as someone who would respect that uniform.
Yeah.
Because of all the services out there, the dress blues are the most iconic, the
Yeah.
most recognizable,
Mhm.
and have been around for the longest period of time.
Yeah, I'm not bragging when I say that literally this isn't even a brag. Every other service out there is jealous of how good our uniform looks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's not to be like an
Mhm.
egoist kind of thing. It's just as someone who has the honor of getting to wear that uniform,
Yeah.
be decent and pair it with something that lives up to the reputation of what that uniform is.
Absolutely.
I think that's the best way to put it.
I think I 100% agree. You know, we've worked very, very hard, and we have sacrificed a lot to wear a uniform that generations of Americans who have come before us have proudly worn, and some of whom, back when our Corps was first founded, some of whom have died in.
Yeah.
They died wearing the first prototypes of that uniform.
Mm.
So it means a lot to us, and that's why pairing it with something classy, like you say, is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, I chose this watch. Actually, let me just rewind a little bit. That is black tie right there. For staff and and officers, you can take it up even more and like get the coat with the
open
dress shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the bow tie. Like now you're in white tie levels of formality. Like now that's as formal as it gets. Like,
Pinnacle.
That's the pinnacle. Yeah, it's mess dress. You can't get any more formal than that. But going back to watches, right? Like I chose the Speedmaster because it is just so iconic, and I specifically want the sapphire version because Hesalite's cool. It's more traditional, like the NASA astronauts wore Hesalite on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sapphire just works a bit better. It's less shiny and less prominent than Hesalite, and it just looks so freaking good. It's going on black leather. It's going to look good.
Absolutely.
In dress blues.
I prefer it personally with the bracelet, but as you're saying, as a dress watch, it doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
And everyone recognizes the Speedmaster's look.
Yeah. If someone saw you wearing your dress blues and then they peeked under your wrist and they saw a Speedmaster on, they would have nothing but compliments for you.
Even if they don't know much about watches or recognize Omega or any of that, they look at it and be like, oh, I've probably seen that design somewhere.
Yeah.
Because the Speedmaster in and of itself is so iconic. It's on par, with the Submariner.
Yeah. Yeah, if you asked a regular like non-watch person to name two specific models, at least the first models they would bring up would probably be the Submariner and the Speedmaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just so classic, so cool. And yeah.
I plan on buying one of these pretty soon here too. So
it's gonna be awesome.
Absolutely. I'm excited for that.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's gonna close out the 10,000 and under budget. So let's move on to the fun stuff, high end.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to preface this point by saying that most military people will not be considering making purchases like these. But having spoken to people online who've reached this level of collecting, who are military, and then having gotten to that point myself, like I have a very nice collection that I'm very proud of. It is possible, yeah. If you make the right financial decisions and you save up your money, and this is something that you actually want to spend money on.
If you're passionate about it.
Yeah, if you have the passion for it and you can make the right financial decisions, you can make these watches.
I definitely think that's the biggest thing is it doesn't have to be out of reach. I feel like a lot of people, especially that don't know much about watches, I perfectly understand not being like a total nerd about it and getting so deep into watches. But the point I'm trying to make is that like even just a few years ago when I first joined the military, I was like, oh yeah, I really like watches and I want to learn more and I'm passionate about it. But I could never buy something that's $5,000 or more.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, yeah, that's absurd and totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
And I get that 99.9% of people are never going to buy something like that. But what I'm saying is if you do eventually down the road find yourself as someone who is very passionate about watches and, is, like you say, smart with their money and can afford to, it doesn't have to be some unobtainable thing. And if you
Mhm.
do choose to purchase a watch like this, you shouldn't feel bad about it.
No.
Not feel guilty.
No.
You know, so long as you have all your other needs met and everything's taken care of, take pride and be happy that you were able to get, you know, a timeless piece for
Yeah.
yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you can, you know, pay your rent on time, if you can, you know, make your
It's a
make your car
testament to
payments
who
and
you
stuff
are.
like that. Yeah. Yeah. And when you reach a certain point in your career, you know, where you have a significant accomplishment in your military career, sometimes you want to commemorate that with a watch.
Like my friend that bought that Constellation from Omega the other day, after he actually finalized the purchase, and you know the three gentlemen working inside Omega, you know, shook his hand and said congratulations to him. It wasn't until my friend and I were walking out of the store that he made the comment of, "Oh, I understand why they're shaking my hand and saying congratulations
Yeah.
on this, because it's more than just purchasing a watch. It signifies a milestone in life, saying
Yeah.
like most people would never be able to
Mhm.
purchase something like this. So it's testament, you know, of who you are, saying like, hey, the fact you were able to just spend this much money on a piece of metal,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, that's unnecessary. Is like clearly you're doing good and
Yeah,
you're making
doing
something of
well.
yourself in life.
Yeah. You've been making the right steps, and it's okay. It's totally okay to want to celebrate that.
And there's nothing, yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like, if you do ever find yourself with 30 grand in expendable cash,
Yeah.
don't feel bad for dropping a bunch of it on even just one of these watches.
Mhm.
You know, take pride and be happy in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that being said, let's talk about Garrison.
Okay, so earlier you were talking about Grand Seiko, saying that you wouldn't want it in the operational environment.
Mhm.
I chose personally to pick my first high-end one in the Garrison everyday environment.
Yeah.
I haven't had any divers on the list thus
Mhm.
far.
Mine is like half mine are divers.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
when I was putting my list together, I was like, I don't want to lean too heavily and pick divers, because divers make sense for military. You can
Yeah.
never go wrong, especially, you know,
Mhm.
if
You don't
you're-
even have to be dive qualified to get use out of a dive watch if you're in the military.
Exactly, yeah. But no, so I went with the Grand Seiko Evolution 9 SLGA 015.
The reference numbers are always so wacky.
No, I know, Seiko's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, again, with Grand Seiko, there's a handful of options. I chose the diver specifically for this one, just because there's been a lack of divers on my list thus far. Now, when we're working with this level of, you know, $30,000 and less for these three watches, I understand that, like, we're playing with money, throwing money around here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This one,
We're kind of like with this
dream
one,
sheet.
as long
This
as
is
you-
your
yeah.
dream sheet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, top level. You know, no
Mhm.
expense spared really.
So in terms of design, the dial itself, it's not just a plain, you know, matte black look to it. It's got some kind of texture to it that gives it a little bit of character that I like. Price point, we're looking at $11,900.
Yeah,
So it already takes up a little over a third of this budget.
11,600 actually. So
Or
you
$11,600.
save $300.
There you go. Wow,
Yeah.
fantastic.
I know, right? Yeah. You save 1/10 of your collection.
Yeah.
No, 1/30 actually. My math is probably wrong there. Math for Marines. Yeah.
I wanted to go with the Grand Seiko though, just because I love the spring drive technology.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
accuracy on it, I think, is what we were talking about earlier today. You
Yeah.
know,
How accurate is spring drive?
it's plus 1 second per day.
Yeah.
You're never going to lose any time on it.
Mhm.
And then at the end of the month, you may have only gained, you know, 30 seconds max in the month. And that's if you're wearing it every single day.
Mhm.
I love these watches too, because a lot of the spring drive movements, they also have on the dial itself, it's like a little meter showing you the power reserve on it. I
Yeah.
believe this one has, I think, like 80 hours or something like that. I can't remember the exact number.
5 days.
5 days.
God, can't you read?
God. I mean, other than the dial having that slight kind of look to it and not being just complete matte look, it's comparable to what a Submariner would look like.
Yeah. This kind of looks like a carbon copy
Yeah.
of Submariner. I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying that as like as a compliment because of how iconic that overall design is.
Yeah.
And this falls firmly into that category.
I just love what Grand Seiko is doing, and with these, what is it called again?
Spring drive?
The spring drive movements, you know, in terms of how insanely accurate they are and the
Mm-hmm.
innovations that Japan is coming out with
Yeah.
these. They're like one of the few watchmakers out there still like pushing the envelope.
Yes.
And I get that the design is, you know, your basic kind of dive watch, but this is your everyday watch at the highest level we can go with.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
have-
think you're going in a wrong direction by choosing this.
Yeah, and you have to keep when we talk about Garrison watches, you know, you have to keep that kind of thing in context, right? Like, ideally, for a Garrison watch, you would be wearing this after you're finished at PT. You know, you go change over, you get your uniform on, you put your camis on. You know, you're wearing this watch throughout your shift, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're doing your work, you're doing your job. You know, hopefully, if it's not so conspicuous that it gets noticed.
Yeah.
And then you take off your uniform, you put on your civilian clothes, and
You can still wear this in both environments.
yeah.
It's a little bit on the bigger size. It's a 42 millimeter, and especially with it being a dive watch, you know, I would say that the irony of me picking this is maybe it wouldn't look the best on my wrist.
Mhm.
You know, like even the diver that I just recently bought, it's
Yeah.
a 38 mil.
Mhm.
So the thing is, like, obviously you got to kind of weigh out whether or not this would be too large of a diver for your wrist. But what you're saying about looks is, like, obviously you can wear this both in and out of uniform.
And that's what you want.
But yeah, even though it has, you know, the stainless steel bracelet, I think in uniform having that black bezel and that black dial, you're not going to get called out being told like, hey, you know, that's too colorful or too bright.
Yeah.
Take it off. You know, sure, it might be a little bit brighter, but in your day-to-day use, it should be perfectly fine.
Yeah. And I like that you chose this watch too because, you know, in comparison, my choice is much more safe. Even though it's very similar, but it's a much more safe choice. Yours is like your choice for like a Grand Seiko, watch with a, you know, pretty captivating dial design. Even though it's like a matte black dial design.
Yeah,
like,
no, I love it. It's just a
Yeah.
perfect accent on it.
Yeah, the stippled like wave patterning on the dial just really adds a nice level of dimensionality to the watch that it is not present on Rolex. It's not present on Omega. It's not present on anything, you know, from Hamilton or Longines or whatever. Like, insert luxury dive watch here. Grand Seiko is just really hitting the nail on the head in terms of giving this watch individuality, in my opinion. Yes, it looks like a Submariner, but it is also its own thing. It stands firmly on its own two legs. And to, you know, bridge the gap between your choice and mine, I chose the Submariner. The date.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yeah, right there.
That's
I chose
perfect.
the Rolex Submariner date 126610 LN. $10,250 at
That's great.
Yeah, right? I was so smooth with that.
Yeah.
But I chose the date version because date functionality is very useful on an everyday watch. You want to know what the date is. You want to have that temporal awareness, right? And, you know, even though they look the same, like this Grand Seiko it just stands on its own two legs.
Yeah.
And it has enough going on its own that it is not, you know,
I love that we both picked divers like right in the same. That's perfect.
yeah, pretty much the
Overlap.
same realm. Yeah. I knew it was going to happen at some point, but yeah, I like that it happened here.
Yeah.
To be honest though, I mean, this Grand Seiko does outperform the Submariner in many aspects. And I own a Submariner. I love my Submariner. I think it's an amazing freaking watch. But you're comparing 5 days of power reserve to 3 days for the Submariner. You've got a spring drive movement that is 1 second. That's accurate to plus or minus 1 second a day.
Yeah.
The Submariner's superlative chronometer certification gives it an accuracy of plus or minus 2. So you basically have half of the margin for error on a Grand Seiko.
Well, it's just +1.
Oh, +1, just +1.
Yeah, there's no room for even losing
Okay,
time.
so that's even better.
Yeah.
That's even better than the Submariner. I think the only thing that the Submariner has on this is that it has 300 meters of water resistance compared to 200 on this watch.
But still, it's such an absurd amount.
Yeah, it's such an absurd amount that it's really irrelevant for most people.
Negligible.
Yeah, it's really negligible for most people. You don't. That's not something that you're going to be considering unless you're going saturation diving or something. And I don't know any military divers, but like I don't.
Unless you're like a
imagine-
Navy diver or something like that.
Yeah. I don't imagine that most divers doctrinally do saturation diving. 'Cause it's
Yeah.
a very, very specialized field.
Yeah.
And frankly, the Submariner was not built for saturation diving. That's what the Sea Dweller is there for.
Hmm.
It has that helium escape valve, like
Mhm.
is standard on Omega
I
watches.
still think those are so neat.
Yeah, those things are crazy. Like the fact that you can open up a valve and the helium just like escapes the watch on its own, like that's insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I chose the Submariner because it has a lot of history standing behind it, and I think that a lot of people that are into the Submariner don't actually realize how much connection it has to the military.
Mm-hmm.
The Rolex has a huge link to like the military and special operations
It's
specifically.
true too.
Yeah.
Heritage behind what the Submariner represents.
Yeah. Navy SEALs used to get issued Tudor Submariners, and
Mhm.
then a lot of Navy SEAls today wear modern Submariners.
Yeah.
Like there's a channel on YouTube, GBRS Group. Both of the guys that run that channel,
I've heard of that channel.
yeah, they're former Navy SEAls, and they both have either Submariners or Sea Dwellers in their collection.
Mm.
There's just a very, very, very strong link between the Submariner specifically and the United States military
Mhm.
and other militaries of the world.
Mm.
It just makes sense as like a high end, everyday watch. You really can't go wrong with it. And the fact that it was built the way it was, or the fact that it is built the way it is, like just means that it's going to be very, very reliable too. Like it's got 904 all stainless steel, so it's highly corrosion resistant.
Mm-hmm.
Like most other watches on this list, it has sapphire and ceramic construction, so again, very, very durable.
Mm-hmm.
And the accuracy is outmatched by the Grand Seiko, as we pointed out, but plus or minus 2 seconds a day is very, very accurate for a mechanical watch,
Mhm.
more so than almost any other watch on the market, again, aside from Grand Seiko. But my Submariner it's pretty much dead on, like at 0 seconds a day. It's super accurate,
That's
calibrated perfectly.
Yeah.
And as an owner of one, I can fully endorse this watch. It's just like the G-Shock. It could be your one and done if you really want it.
Yeah, no, I've never had any complaints about the Submariner.
Mhm.
It's just the most iconic. As you said earlier, about if anyone or like anyone interested in watches were to mention like, oh, name like 2 of the most iconic watches out there.
Yeah.
Submariner is easily like number 1, or
Yeah.
definitely top 3 in terms of like most iconic, most recognizable. Still fits, the bill. It can't go wrong with one.
Yeah, I think the only thing wrong with the Submariner, or the only complaint that people have about the Submariner, is that it's too well known. It's too ubiquitous.
I was about to
Yeah.
say that would be the only caveat to it, is that it has almost lost a bit of that like pizzazz that it would have had.
Yeah, because that's all. I mean, that's all you hear about. If you're an AD, if you're an authorized dealer and you work at that authorized dealer, you probably get a lot of people coming in asking for Submariners all the freaking time.
Mm-hmm. Probably get tired of hearing it.
Yeah, maybe. I can't speak for what my authorized dealer thinks, but I have spoken to ADs before, and they tell me that all the time. Like they're always getting people asking for that watch. And if you know anything about the watch market, if you have been following how, in high demand Rolex is,
Mhm.
like a lot of people just really want the Submariner. A
Mhm.
lot of people want it. So
It's
That's-
one of those ones that'll always be around too.
absolutely, it's never gonna go out of style. It's never gonna go out of style.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's why it is the way it is. That's why it's been going strong for 70 years and will probably continue to go strong for another 70.
I didn't realize it's been around for that long.
Yeah, the Submariner was released in 1953. Rolex wanted to create a serious dive watch.
Mm-hmm. Was that their first diver?
I think so, yeah, because the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, I think, had been released around that same time, and then Rolex took what Blancpain did right and then adapted it to their aesthetic and improved upon it.
One and done.
Yeah. There's a lot of debate about which one came first, but that's its own discussion. and we'd be here for hours and hours if we went down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
Yeah. But let's talk about operational under 30,000. Okay, so we had to take a little break, but we're back now. Before we go back to you about your operational watch, I just want to show you guys this plate carrier. So this is just to illustrate like what you're actually dealing with in an operational environment. This is just a small part of the kind of gear you're going to be taking with you, right? And this isn't even the full setup. I have this like slimmed down. I have the elastic cummerbunds attached for lightness and mobility. But you know, when you're out there and you're operating, I have magazines in here. Like you're going to be doing you're going to be wearing like this type of gear. And you know, if you're going to choose a watch, if you're going to wear a watch out in the field, which you should, because you need to have again that situational awareness of time. Like you're going to want something that fits this kind of scheme. So obviously, like your dress watches, and you know maybe you're more fragile. Not that they're fragile, but your less robust everyday watches won't really fit this bill. So I just wanted to show this as a quick point. I'm probably going to get flamed for this by every other service member that watches this video, but you know this is just to give some context for maybe those who aren't military that are watching. Like this is the stuff you wear in deployment. You're going to want something that fits the bill. Yeah. So with that being said, what is your sub 30,000 tactical / operational watch?
So what I was trying to make a point of earlier is that when you're dealing with the operational watches, you're probably not going to be dropping thousands upon thousands of dollars on it.
No.
Because you want something that you would be able to replace if need be. So when you're looking into, I found myself scrounging around, on the internet trying to find watches, and I didn't want to feel like I was forcing any sort of, I have to find the most expensive or the most pricey thing. I would rather it still fit the reality of it, that it's like, okay, at most it might be like a couple grand.
Yeah.
And earlier you picked a Marathon. But you picked it for, what was it, an everyday?
Yeah, that was my everyday. Yeah, I picked the Sangen instruments for the operational. Yeah.
Okay, so for similar reason, just because of what Marathon is and what it represents, I picked it, but I went obviously for the operational kind of setting for this, because Marathons are purpose built and made for this kind of environment.
Yeah.
The names on these are crazy, but it's the 41 millimeter anthracite large divers automatic GSAR with a stainless steel bracelet. This watch, it's currently on sale, so it's right around $2,000. But without the sale, its going price is normally $2,500. And now, bear in mind, that's with a stainless steel bracelet. I would say if you are in this kind of operating environment, I would lean more so towards a rubber strap or a rubber bracelet, or a NATO. I know I already mentioned a couple NATO bracelets earlier, which is why I'd say for this one I would pick more of a rubber strap.
I'd go for the NATO. But
you would?
Yeah. But go on. Yeah,
personal preference again, and as with what I've been saying. In regards to all of these brands.
Is that over there?
Yeah, that's the one. So like you mentioned earlier, Marathon, long storied history of working hand in hand with the military, issuing these watches to service members since World War II. Search and rescue is kind of what they specialize in now a little bit. But with this watch, you're getting an automatic movement. It's a diver. I also included it for that reason too. I know my last pick was also a diver, but my list was kind of lacking a bunch of divers. So also in part why I leaned into that a little bit.
I mean, if we're being real, like divers just are, and we said this already, but divers are just the most practical type of watch to have for any sort of military.
As a service member, it makes the most sense.
Chronographs are too fragile. Not everybody needs to track at second time zone with a GMT.
Yeah.
A diver is just useful.
Exactly. Exactly. And as well as the fact that water resistance too. Because even if you're not going underwater, you're not diving, the likelihood of you finding yourself, obviously if you're not in the desert, in like a torrential downpour or something like that, you want to have that screw down crown and that security of knowing like, hey, my watch could get like flooded and still be fine. And then also part of why I picked Marathon is just because of the history behind this brand.
Yeah.
And them always working so close with the U.S. military. So I would say, in terms of top tier, operational military watches,
Mhm.
you can't go wrong with a watch from Marathon. And
No.
this diver in specific is, one of their higher end options out there.
Yeah.
So.
I totally agree. I won't talk about this one too much because this is basically the exact same thing I picked.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, except the fact that it's covered in black anthracite,
Yeah.
which does make it more tactical. I'm going to read from the company's website. The Marathon Anthracite G-SAR was first introduced in 2018 for stealth during tactical night missions. Like, it literally says it right there. Like, if you want to have, if light discipline, is a consideration for you, then this is a watch that you need to be aiming for. You need something that is not going to reflect light, and you need something that you can read at nighttime that is not going to die out on you. Because again, as we've been saying this entire time, like having that situational awareness of what the time is during an operation is absolutely crucial, because 90% of operations are time bound. Without going into too much detail, like in a basic military operation, you have certain phases that you need to meet, and you have certain like checklists that you need to mark off. Certain things happen, and that means that you need to execute this action now.
Mm-hmm.
Plans always change, and the best laid plans, fall to crap, right? But ideally, a good operation is always planned out, and if you're not keeping track of time and you're falling behind, then that's never a good thing.
Yeah.
And this watch can help you keep track of time because of how visible it is, and because of how just like stealthy it is by design. It's going to be perfect for that situation.
I think the point you made too earlier about Marathon watches, how a lot of them can come with various sorts of branding and look to it. I would say that's another part of why I picked this one, is because it has that more sleek, kind of matte, unbranded look to it. Regardless of your reasoning behind it, I just think it's important to choose a watch that isn't like saying like, hey, look at me, this is what I am, or this or that, or the third. Because I saw on Marathon's website too, like, we're in the Marine Corps, right?
Yeah.
And I see their watch that has like a giant EGA plastered on it.
Yeah, Eagle Golden Anchor for those watching.
Yeah, and apart from being the guy that's going to look at that and be like, man, if I ever saw someone wearing that, like, oh, they're a boot,
Yeah. Right.
Aside from that, it's more so just like, you don't need that. You don't need to be out there branding yourself as that.
There's really not. There's really no good reason to advertise your military association any more than you already do, or any more than you already would if you were in uniform, right?
Yeah.
And if you're out of uniform and that's the watch that you choose to wear, right? Like let's say that you do some cool guy stuff and you have to take off your uniform, put on your civilian clothes, and then put on your kit and take your weapon with you, right? Well, you don't want to be wearing a watch with an Eagle Golden Anchor on it. That is a dead giveaway.
Ties you in association.
Yeah, it's a dead giveaway of like who you are, what country you represent, and then like what you're probably there to do. Like you don't want to go into a tactical situation.
It's about being subdued.
Right. Yeah. Low visibility is just a good habit to practice and develop. It's a good concept to have, and not just for operations, but for life in general. Like we're talking about some very, very expensive stuff here. There's a time and place.
Tackiness too. I think it looks really tacky, where it's like, that's cool and all that Marathon is like supporting the troops and doing that, but at the same time, it's like, I don't need anything else showing.
It's like you're a Marine.
It's a little cheap looking, in my opinion. Like, I personally would never buy something that's like, hey, look at this.
Yeah. And even for like a civilian use case, like if you're a veteran or something, and you have like honor, courage, commitment, like stamped on the dial of your watch, like that would just be, or an EGA stamped on the dial of your watch. Just keep it real with Marathon. That would probably point you out to someone. They would probably notice that and want to take that watch from you. So they know that now that it means something to you.
Yeah.
You don't want to make yourself a target willingly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the main takeaway.
if you're gonna wear your fancy like super cool like loud watches somewhere, like there's a time and place for that, but you know, in the context of the military, you gotta tone it down. And we were talking about it earlier before we filmed. Like you mentioned that like mint dial Tag Heuer Carrera. There's absolutely a time and place to wear that, and it's a super good looking watch. Like I wouldn't wear it personally, but I can see why you're attracted to it, and I can see why other people might want to wear that.
Yeah.
But like, in any of the situations that we're discussing, you know, operational, garrison, address, like it just wouldn't fit, you know, into the situation.
Exactly.
So I'm sure you would agree.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I didn't choose to put it on this list. The whole time I was making this list, I'm the kind of person where it's like I love in my free time to have those kind of looks, whether it be clothing or watches, you know, that kind of stand out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But in making this, there is a purpose behind this list, and that's the purpose of what military is. You know, uniformity, being more subdued, you know, fitting in. That's the common theme and trend with across the board, whether it be the dress, the operational, or everyday.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm trying to fit that wicket with all of these watches.
Yeah, and call us boring or call us uncreative or uninspired, but these watches just really do fit that mold, and that's why we chose them. So moving on to, or do you have anything else to say about that?
No, I mean, I think earlier when you were explaining your marathon and then me explaining this one, it just kind of covers it. You can't go wrong with one of these.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to mine. You chose a Garmin, I chose a Garmin too. I chose a different one. It's the Tactix 7 Pro Ballistics Edition. And the reason why I asked whether or not the one you chose was solar was because I feel like for an operational watch, I think that's a really important thing to have. I'm pretty sure at all three price points I've discussed, my operational watches have been solar powered.
Yeah.
Because I think this is just a really smart thing to have. If you're going to have a quartz watch, you might as well have it be solar powered too, so that you can always rely on that battery not going out. You know, your standard deployment in the Marine Corps lasts about 6 months. You know, if you bring a quartz watch out to the field and you're expecting to be out there for a long time, and if it dies on you, aside from replacing the battery yourself, like what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know, if it dies on you. So I think that's having a solar-powered Garmin just really maxes out the reliability. In that aspect. But this
37 days.
Yeah.
Smartwatch mode.
I know, right? Yeah.
I saw that and was like, what?
That's crazy. Yeah, for a smartwatch, that's crazy. Like, forget the Apple Watch. You really don't need an Apple Watch. Apple Watch is like, at this point, Apple is just being lazy. They are just willingly like not. They say they're improving. They say they like to make improvements. This video isn't about the Apple Watch.
It's proof of the fact that there's no reason why an Apple Watch wouldn't be capable of having longer battery life.
Exactly. Apple at this point, Apple is just being freaking complacent.
Yeah.
They need to get off their ass and start innovating like Garmin does. Yeah. Maybe then I'll consider upgrading. Yeah. But with that being said, this video is not about the Apple Watch. This is about Garmin. So $13.99 for the price in the U.S. You've got solar charging, as we mentioned, 37 days battery life in smartwatch mode. Excuse me. And like the other Garmin, it's just very ruggedly built. Like you described it perfectly. It's like a Nokia of smartwatches.
Yeah.
You also have, and this is very specific for snipers, but for a sniper, you can use the Applied Ballistics software for long-range shooting calculations. Freaking motorcycle. I shouldn't have opened that window. No, but you can make some very, very complicated shooting calculations. And if you're a marksman or a sniper, then you can use that. And that'll probably come in pretty handy if you like. You can use that as like a secondary or tertiary device to calculate your shot. Because usually when snipers have like those ballistic calculators that they bring with their kit.
That's neat that the watch has that capability.
I know, right?
Built into it.
I think the model I think one of the models that Brosek has that software on it.
Huh.
Yeah. So if he ever went to the range, he could like make that calculation.
A little cheat sheet on your wrist.
Yeah. Right. I think that's just super cool. Like, that is specifically designed for military.
And who else? Yeah, I was going to say, who else is going to be needing to sit there and be like, oh, let me calculate my elevation blah, blah, for a shot.
I need my elevation. I need the windage. This shot is 1.5 miles. I'm about to set a new record. I need to calculate, the rotation of the earth and all that stuff. Like, I'm not a sniper, but like those are the kind of things you would need to know. Like that kind of play into like taking a long range shot.
Mm-hmm.
Even just shooting at 500 yards, like you understand, like
it would be applicable to a guy at that range.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I chose it. It's got that LED flashlight for night visibility, so just like the Marathon is going to be visible at night. You have the same satellite capabilities as the Garmin that you chose.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I don't know if the one that you chose has this feature, but this has a kill switch to wipe the memory completely for
Really?
OPSEC purposes. Yeah. So after you get this watch cleared by a security manager, and after you can start taking it into certain spaces, certain classified spaces, if for any reason, your adversary intercepts the data on this watch, you could activate the kill switch and completely wipe all of the data off of this watch. And so like, have you worked with an SKL or a Prick radio before?
No,
But you can access
that's good to
aviation.
know it has that though.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
working at that kind of top tier level, with regard to what we're talking about, an operational watch that someone in the field or an operational environment would be utilizing,
Mhm.
knowing that as like that leave no trace kind of attitude of like, hey, if anyone was trying to lock onto you, you can just be like, nope,
Yeah.
get out of here.
Pretty much.
That's
yeah.
good. It's good to have.
Can
I like
start
that.
from scratch. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
this watch, like this is a full-on smartwatch. Like
Yeah.
it can track your data. It can track a lot of like individual personal data, like your health metrics and whatnot.
Mhm.
And then it also has that GPS capability for
All these
navigation.
added features that would be applicable to a service guy.
Yeah, and with the more features that you add, those make for more potential security vulnerabilities.
Exactly.
As opposed to your standard G-Shock, right?
Mhm.
G-Shocks are impenetrable because they don't have many capabilities relative to a Garmin.
It's a give and take kind of game,
Yeah,
where it's like as soon as you start to pay more for letting these features in the door, you have to accept the risk that comes along with doing so.
yeah. So it's nice to have that. It's nice to have that like backdoor feature per se of just zeroizing the entire thing in order to remain within operationally secure. So it has those things, and then it also has, and this is cool because being an air traffic controller, we need this, but like it can read METARs and TAPs or weather data. So if you need to get like a quick weather reading, you can just get rid of your entire weather section and tell them to get the hell out, and you just read what's on your watch.
Well, think about the other guys out there, like TACP guys,
Yeah.
or
Special recon, special operations weather.
I was gonna say any other job out there that is going to be working in that field environment,
Mhm.
that does air control or
Anything like
air
this.
support, anything of that kind of level.
Yeah, C2 related.
It's useful to be able to like look at your watch and be like, okay, this is an accurate reading of the weather,
Mhm.
and you can report that to your guys in the sky.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be very, very useful. That way you don't have to turn to that little weather lance corporal that doesn't know what he's doing and be like, what's the METAR right now?
Yeah,
Sergeant.
That's good. That's a great watch. It really does fit the bill perfectly for that high end, operational.
Garmin must have gone to special operators and been like, hey, we're making a watch. What do you want in this?
Yeah, it seems all like very intentional and planned out from the perspective of what was this watch when you were looking into it? Is it marketed as like for military?
Yeah, like there was a like product document. I can just pull it up right now and show you.
Self-destruct button.
Yeah. Self-destruct. Activating in 3, 2, 1. Oh shit.
Yeah. No, that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, right? Blows your wrist up.
That's great.
Right? Yeah. I might actually have to make this my next smartwatch.
I was gonna say, like, if I were to ever find myself needing something at that level, it's a great option.
It really is.
It's just cool too.
Yeah, it just looks freaking badass.
Yeah.
Granted, it probably wears like that picture, probably wears
chunky.
a brick on the wrist, yeah. But at
Who
that
cares?
point, do you really care? Yeah.
Mm.
I need my tactical watch to be 38 millimeters.
No, who cares at that point?
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Getting back to the topic because we veered off a little bit.
Definitely.
We're having fun, I guess. We're going to close out with the final category, which is we're going back to dress watches, and now we have a lot of room to play with because of the size of our fictional budgets.
Yeah, I was gonna say because we left the room with the operational watch it being only a couple grand, but we're saying hey we're working with 30 to play around with.
Yeah.
You could really play with anything from the sub 20 or more feasibly sub $15,000 range.
Mhm.
And I know earlier I mentioned it to you. I'm very interested in moon phases.
Mhm.
I knew I kind of wanted to pick a watch that was from JLC. That's what I was leaning towards, because a lot of these higher end watches, like Vacheron or AP. I even tried looking at Rolex briefly to see like a day date, because they're so recognizable. I was set aback when I went on Rolex's website.
Yeah, the thing people don't realize about day dates is that they're all precious metals. So like none of them are below 30,000. Probably none of them are below 30,000.
Yeah, all the ones I clicked on were like 35 to 40K starting, and I was like, okay, well that's way out of budget.
Yeah. But hey, if you're the president of the United States, then you can afford the president's watch. So
exactly. Moral of the story was JLC was, in terms of high class, extreme quality history story behind the company, comparatively to all the other high end dress watch companies out there, JLC just made the most sense. So I was going back and forth trying to decide, do I go with the Reverso?
Yeah.
Because everyone knows Reversos. Or do I go with this moon phase that I'm looking at that I really like?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of cheating my answer, but I could say it's kind of interchangeable. In the end, I did end up choosing it's the JLC Master Ultra Thin Moon Phase. It goes for 11.9. I think that's why earlier when I was talking about the Grand Seiko, I was thinking 11.9.
Yeah.
It's because this one's 11.9.
Okay.
Again, you could get a Reverso for...
So real quick, wait.
Yeah.
You chose 11.6, 11.9, and 2,500. We'll go with that.
I'm
so
worried.
Well under budget.
It's well under.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room.
Yeah.
Now, the thing was, this is what had me super, super split, is because I saw a Reverso that was dual face, but it's not a moon phase. It's just a night and day calendar. Yeah. But that was going for 16.7, I want to say.
16.7? Oh
gosh. Yeah. So the thing was, that would have been just over the 30K.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there like, okay, well, I can't really pick that one. So, hence why I say it's kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
Because, like, you could get Reversos at a wide variety. And I understand I'm kind of all over the place right now. I know it's narrowed down. JLC, I would say, is the brand to go with.
Yeah.
Moon phase, just because I think that's classy and not too many people walk around wearing moon phases on their wrists.
Yeah, that's probably, aside from the tourbillon and the minute repeater, I think on the list of like formality level of complications right now, and we're getting really nerdy now.
Oh yeah.
Moon phase is definitely number 3 on the list.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason I chose the moon phase was all those reasons, and 2, I didn't want to just push it over budget.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I by the way, I hate when people do these types of videos and then they go over budget and it's like, oh, it's only a couple $1,000, you know. Because you see that and it's like, it's over budget. You can't afford that watch. If you only have $30,000, you can't go to $32,000. Like,
well, and I was also trying to take into account the fact that suppose I did put that Reverso that was like 16.7 in there.
Yeah.
Factor in the tax you're paying.
Yes, yeah. These are all MSRP. This is tax not included.
Yeah. And so with all of these watches, that Grand Seiko, that Marathon, and that JLC, once you take, that 11.6 plus 11.9 plus, 2,500, whatever it comes out to be.
Yeah.
Add all the taxes, you're still looking at right around 25 to 27,000.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking in my head. Yeah, because it adds up. Yeah.
Even though it's under budget, it's only by just a couple $1,000s, and at that level, that's still a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be, a couple thousand under and still be getting like great watches that I really would love to have, like Dream Sheet, love to have someday.
Yeah.
Then be like, oh, let me just push it a little bit and say like, let's get this Reverso. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
And like you said, if it's about keeping within a budget, that's why I went with this one. The thing is, you can't go wrong with it, JLC.
Yeah.
everyone knows. I mean, at least everyone within the watch community knows JLC.
Yeah, and if you don't know JLC, and you're a watch person, like, are you really a watch person?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think I can't say it enough. The moon phase is what sold me on it, and it's a sleek, thin dress watch with an automatic movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's not again. It always fits the wicket of like it's not going to be massive on your wrist or anything.
Yeah.
And it's just all around extremely classy. What's the size on it? 39?
39 and then 9.3 millimeters thick.
Exactly. So very, very slim.
Yeah. This is a full-on dress watch.
Yeah, perfectly embodies exactly what you'd be looking for in a dress watch.
Yeah.
And I get that, $12,000 is like, okay, that's expensive. But again, we're working with almost limitless budget.
Yeah. $30,000 for a military guy is basically limitless.
Yeah. And I think the moon phase is, what sets this apart from, for example, the Longines that I mentioned earlier in the lower tier.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, that Longines, you could get it with a moon phase too.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, JLC.
Yeah, like that Longines is like, or this JLC is like that Longines but on steroids.
Exactly.
If this thing hopped on trend, if the Longines hopped on trend, it would turn into a JLC.
Unnecessary, but a very obvious step up in terms of quality.
Yeah. And it's a dress watch, like why wouldn't you try and max that out?
Go big or go home kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't own any dress watches. Well, I mean, I consider my date just a dress watch, but that's because I'm a slob, But
and you could even consider it good too, in the sense of like, it isn't the Reverso.
Yeah.
The likelihood of you walking around in a Reverso and someone looking at you being like, "Hey, I know that,"
Yeah.
This one has
what is that? Yeah.
This has a little bit more character to
Yeah.
it, and more personal to you. So if you care about that kind of uniqueness, at least it's your watch, and there's going to be a hell of a lot less people walking around wearing this piece in specific.
Yeah, yeah. I think what most people, and you're gonna laugh when I say this, or you're gonna laugh later on, but like when most people think of JLC, they gravitate towards the Reverso.
Yeah.
Yeah. That JLC is I feel like JLC as a brand,
similar to Cartier with the tank.
Yeah, you're just mostly known for that dress watch, style.
It's their staple piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they have sport watches. They have the Polaris, right? But how often have you seen a Polaris on somebody's wrist?
Exactly.
Probably never, right? Like more often you see Reversos on people's wrists. More often
flagship models.
Yeah, the flagship models. You don't often see people walking around wearing the Rolex Cellini. You see people.
I'll tell you, that was another one I was looking at.
Really?
Yeah. So way back a couple years ago when I was in Vegas, I walked into another watch store inside one of the casinos that is an AD for carrying pretty much every watch brand under the sun.
Yeah.
Just because it's Vegas and they're going to.
Yeah, of course.
And that was
a bunch of money, and then you get a Rolex.
Yeah, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a Cellini moon phase, which are now discontinued.
Yeah.
But getting to try that on my wrist and look at it, it's the moon phase, and I looked it up. The cheapest one you can find on Chrono 24 is like right around $25,000.
That's insane. Yeah.
Which would not work for this budget.
Yeah.
But say you were like,
maybe if you're a general, you can afford that.
If money just doesn't matter and you're like beyond stupid rich, for me personally, I would go with that, just because getting to try that on something, and this is coming from someone who isn't even like the biggest fan of Rolex.
Yeah.
That watch is just all around cool and just amazing.
Yeah.
So
apparently Rolex didn't think so.
I don't know why. I don't know why they canceled it.
Yeah.
I don't think they should have, personally.
I think they canceled it because, when you think about Rolex customers, and we're going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, but when you think about Rolex customers, right, they're always asking for the same watches. They're always asking for the Daytona, the GMT, and the Submariner.
But who cares? Like, have some character and uniqueness. You know what I mean?
But most people just want the thing. They want the thing that everyone else wants, and I'm one of those people.
No, I'm not calling you lame. But
I know.
Because I can respect it. I can respect like what we were talking about with the Submariner or the Divers.
Yeah.
It's like there is a sense of like time and place for those watches that are iconic, and I don't want to say run of the mill in a negative context, but just undeniably like quintessential, recognizable, good watches.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like have some character and your own look.
I think the reason the Cellini just didn't do well during its lifetime is because it is so individualistic. It's so individualistic it's to a fault. You know, like it doesn't.
You think so?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like it's too niche, almost.
Yeah, it's almost too niche because you think about it. Like Rolex mainly sells sport watches or sports capable watches. In their classic line.
They're not really known as the dressy type.
Yeah, they're not known as the dressy type. The Day and the Datejust are very dressy watches.
No.
But they're not like full on like this is a specifically a dress watch.
Mm.
And those have very very long and storied histories and they're very iconic. Martin Luther King wore a Datejust.
Good point.
Yeah. Freaking Lyndon B. Johnson wore a Day. I'm blanking out on other people right now, but those are two notable examples of people.
I was going to say, I know Obama wore the Cellini moon phase.
He did, yeah.
But the thing is, most presidents weren't walking around wearing that.
Yeah.
They're known for the Day, hence why it was called that.
Mm-hmm.
The presidents.
Yeah, it's the president's watch. Yeah, and President Biden wears a blue dial Datejust on a Jubilee bracelet with a smooth bezel.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't see the Cellini moon phase. Like if you look at the Cellini line, like its entire history, like there's a lot of variation in the designs that came up.
Mm-hmm.
They were constantly like changing up the designs of the watch. I'm speaking as someone who only knows a couple models off the top of his head, but like I guess the evolution of the Cellini was never.
They still make Cellinis though, don't they?
They make the 1908,
Okay.
which is basically the evolution of the Cellini, but they dropped the moon phase.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just
It's a bummer.
You see a lot of major changes to that family of designs.
Uh-huh.
I guess part of the reason it just hasn't taken off like the other models in the Rolex family is that there's no clear iconic design to it. Like if you look at the most popular designs, the GMT Master 2 and the Daytona and the Submariner, those have been around for decades and they have barely changed in design at all.
Yeah.
There's almost no variation in between the.
It's like the Porsche 911.
Yeah.
They're like known for that staple sport look.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
yeah.
It's not to say there's nothing wrong with them branching out and trying to make more dressier kind of watches. It just doesn't fit their mantra of what they're known for.
Yeah, they are not, in terms of design, they're just not, their most popular models have not really changed, and they're just not known for that kind of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Their type of Rolex's type of innovation is at a much more subtle level with the movement and the case material and construction. Things that wouldn't be noticeable to the eye right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's happening on the inside of the watch or on the material level.
Yeah.
Upgrading from 316L stainless steel to 904L, or upgrading the accuracy to be within an in-house standard.
Like you were saying with your Explorer.
Yeah,
powers,
this is
stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, things like that. Things that are a bit more subtle. That's where they innovate. They don't really innovate too much from an aesthetic standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried that with the Cellini, and it's just, I guess from Rolex, I can't speak for Rolex because I don't work there, but like it didn't work out because you barely saw that watch getting sold in ADs, and people barely asked for that.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
This is a nice one.
It really is, yeah. And I think the cool thing about that watch is that it's got that meteorite moon in there too.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
When I did try it on for the first time, the guy was telling me that. And this is when I was like just starting to be like, ooh, watches are fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So hearing the guy explain that to me, I was like, really just turned me on to it,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. But bringing it back to the main discussion at hand, we definitely went off on a tangent.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The long format discussion here.
Yeah. This is once this video gets published, like it's gonna be like the last one we did, where it was
It's a movie.
almost 2 hours, pretty much.
Movie.
I'm surprised that video got as many views as it did. I don't know if you've seen it.
I was gonna ask you how well it did.
I think it got like almost 2,000 views.
No way.
Yeah, I think it broke 2,000 views. Either that, it got at least 1.5.
That's awesome.
I know. Yeah. The channel is actually kind of taken off. I'm really, really pleased with that.
Oh,
But-
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, this is like a full-blown podcast.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, like it's more
Yeah.
than just to sit down and talk. I know,
Mhm.
again, tangent right here.
Yeah.
Apologize to any of you that aren't enjoying this format,
No, hell no.
but I love
Yeah.
it. You know, I think this is great, and I
Yeah.
think that
If you don't like how long this video is, and this is for the viewers, if you don't like how long this video is, there's this thing called the skip button. There's this thing called the scroll wheel. You just go to the part that you care about, and then you figure it out from there. He and I are having a discussion, and we're having fun.
and that's what I'm saying. I think this longer format is a great way of doing this. You know,
Mhm.
it's a conversation where you sit down, and obviously we have like the intent of, hey, we're going to talk about this theme or these key ideas.
Yeah.
But being able to just branch out from there on free form, free flow, kind of discuss all these different watches, I think that has an appeal to it. So
Yeah.
to anyone watching, I appreciate the interest.
Yes. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for
Yeah.
for watching this content and supporting the video. But if you don't have any patience, then skip around. That's what this video is for.
So, we don't plan to make it 4 hours long.
It just happens to be that way.
Yeah.
All right. Final watch. So we're talking about dress, and we're talking about like sub $30,000.
Mhm.
You can see the listing. You can see the entry right here.
Uh-huh.
But you know, when I was thinking about putting a watch in this category, I was looking at a lot. I looked at the Cartier Tank. You know, I know I had to put the reference there because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Cartier Tank, and I was like, no, like the ones that I wanted to put in were too much, and the ones that I could afford to put in were just not in. You know, they just didn't meet the standard for me personally. Like I wouldn't wear them. I would wear every watch on this list, right? If I had the money to buy all of these watches, I would go out and buy them.
Yeah.
I would wear them, but I can't. You know, or like, yeah, there's too many watches to buy it a single time.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, I would not put a watch on this list that I wouldn't personally wear. So the Cartier Tank was out. Even though Cartier Tanks are great, the ones that I wanted to put on here were just unaffordable.
Mhm.
I looked at the Santos. I've talked about the Santos before on my channel many times, and frankly, it's just not dressy enough. You can put a leather strap on it, but it was born as a tool watch, and there will always be that kind of stigma attached to it as being like the first tool watch.
Mhm.
It doesn't. You can get dressier than that.
Mm.
And then I went to Grand Seiko, and I was thinking to myself, like, okay, what's a good Grand Seiko? I looked around, and I love Grand Seiko, but I couldn't find anything that would catch my eye.
Uh-huh.
So I did what you did, and separately from you, because we didn't know what our lists were before today. We had no idea what our lists were. So it just happened to be that I chose
The
J.G.
reverse.
LeCoultre as well. Yeah, JLC. I went for JLC, and I chose the Reverso Classic Duo Face with the small seconds.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was looking at that exact one.
Yeah.
Like, if I had picked it, our very last watches would have been the exact same. So I'm happy
Nice.
I chose the Moon Phase.
Yeah.
Because we got that difference in terms of our picks.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, it definitely goes to show that I would say personally, some objective direction in terms of when you're working within these budgets. You know, clear, obvious choices of watchmakers that you would lean towards in terms of choosing. Because, like I said, like the APs and you know the Elongizona, like certain of within this budget, you know, out of reach.
Yeah.
But JLC works for
Mhm.
what we're talking about, and it
Yeah.
just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
They have increased their prices, but for the purposes of the budget that we set, JLC does still fit into the budget. And for somebody who makes a lot of money in the military, which is possible, you know, you can reasonably afford this if you save up the money.
and like you said, I would also buy this in a heartbeat too.
Yeah.
So
I tried on a JLC at Benbridge a couple days ago, and I was, you know, very, very impressed with the overall quality. It was a mono face, so it wasn't this exact reference, but I was just generally really impressed with it.
if you could just get one Reverso, would you choose a duo face or a mono face?
Duo face. I would choose the duo face because, you know, if you're gonna go for a dress watch, like I said earlier in the video, you really want to make sure that, like, if you're gonna do one dress watch, you want to make sure you have a white face and a dark face.
It is
for
a
an
2-in-1. You're right.
Yeah, it's a 2-in-1. It's just very, just very versatile.
That's true.
And so that's why I chose this duo face for the list, because it's affordable, relatively. And then, you know, you can switch over the dials for night and day.
When you can't go wrong with the Reverso.
Yeah.
Again,
You really
that's
can't.
that's the staple of a lot of these watches on this list, is that we're not picking anything that's crazy out there. We're
Yeah.
picking designs and watches and watchmakers that have been around for, you know, well over a century.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and this JLC being like the epitome of that.
Yeah.
You know, and what we're getting at with that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it hits the mark perfectly. You wear this in a pair of dress blues, it's gonna look good for sure.
yeah.
The only thing I would change out about this model would be the strap. The brown leather strap.
I'd say black.
Yeah, I was gonna say black too. Like, and because this watch is 13,000, my other entries are 1399 and you know 10,250. Like, I have room in the budget to go get a strap from JLC and then just have that thrown on there instead.
Mhm.
So taking off the brown leather strap, putting a black leather strap on it, it now it meets the standard for the level of formality that I want.
Mhm.
You know, if I'm putting on my dress blues, I want to have black leather on to match the color of my coat.
Yeah.
So
One, black leather in general, you can never go wrong with, whereas brown might be a little off-putting.
yeah, brown is definitely a bit more casual and
Yeah.
and a bit more
Not that there's anything wrong with it,
yeah.
it's just for the sake of never being at fault, black
Mhm.
leather is the good choice.
Yeah, and in uniform you're wearing like black patent leather
Yeah.
core frames, you know, your dress shoes, like those are always going to be black. Doesn't matter what dress uniform you're wearing, or whether service or dress.
Mhm.
Like, it's black leather, you got to match your leathers,
Yes.
you know. So it just makes sense to go out and buy a black leather strap for this watch. But I mean, looking at it, it's just freaking gorgeous, you know, especially this
Wow.
black leather or this black face, like black dial.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I love the texture on it. I love the way the hands are shaped like swords, and the
Mhm.
stick hour markers. Like, there's just nothing else like it out there.
Definitely. I'm happy you picked the Reverso as your last one. I
Mhm.
mean, we're just kind of unashamedly promoting JLC right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's
A
good
lot of
brand.
brands have gotten exposure today. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're covering all the bases.
mhm.
But no, definitely at the high end, I think in terms of sheer classiness and story history behind it, you're never wrong choosing JLC.
No, you're not. You're really not.
So
If your bank account can justify it, then there is no.
It
reason
doesn't
not to
hurt.
get it.
then go do it.
Yeah, seriously. Speaking of which, this watch is $13,300 at
Uh-huh.
MSRP. Stainless steel. You can get rose gold versions or other precious metals, but
I
only
think,
stainless steel.
not to cut you off, but that's another point about a lot of these watches on this list,
Mhm.
void of like which category of the three or what price point we're talking about. You notice another common trend amongst all these watches was within the certain watch we picked, there was always a wide variety in terms of sometimes price range as well as, you know, customizability
Yeah.
in terms of look and stuff like that. So even though it might be like, hey, it's this specific watch, every watch has a hell of a lot of customizability to it.
Mhm.
So it's like from the G-Shock all the way to the top level, you know, Reversos that we're talking about right now, there's still your own sense of individuality, and that touches on what we talked about earlier too,
Yeah.
where it's like we're fitting the whole be uniform and fit in and don't try and stand out like a sore thumb because you're a service member, but still we're affording you the opportunity to have that individuality and
Yeah.
character and expression.
Yeah, there's definitely a framework that you can operate within. You don't have to go for these specific references, but they do provide like a good jumping off point
Exactly.
to then go out and find something that works for you.
Mhm.
You know, you don't have to get a duo face; you can just get a mono face.
There's no objective right or wrong answer, but it's like what I was trying to say earlier, is that there are definitely better directions to move in
Mhm.
terms of your options and what's out there.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're gonna wear a dress watch and you can find something within your price range, you
Uh-huh.
could even go for something like yellow gold. You know, because like when we're wearing our dress blues, there's gold elements to it, and that fits even better.
Uh-huh.
Now you can match your medals, but like, you know, you just if you keep the baseline simple, you can expand out from there, and then truly discover something that you connect with. You know. Yeah.
Do you have any final closing comments in terms of everything we've covered?
I would say I actually should have written concluding points. I would say off the top of my head that, you know, looking good is cool. Having a nice watch is cool, but going into debt for this stuff is never cool.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. I have saved up a lot of money over my time in the military in order to own the watches that I have now and also be debt free. And I'm very proud of that fact. You know, because a lot of people, you know, you've probably seen this too in the military. Like they only care about the things that you only care about when you first get into the military is like when chow time is, when you get released for liberty, and how much you can drink while you're on liberty. You know, like that's pretty much the things that most junior enlisted guys only really care about, unless they have like an NCO guiding them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And part of being guided in that right direction is being financially responsible and being smart.
I guess,
you know?
Speaking to the junior guys that would watch a video like this, and kind of like what we were talking about, how even some of the guys we work with, you know, that are more junior to us, that got interested in watches and stuff like that, know that watches are never the priority. Like it's purely like a hobby and a passion that it's fun to learn about and get into, but the countless hours I would say I spend researching and learning about different watches and stuff like that compared to like, okay, I'm going to walk into a dealer and purchase a watch now is, you know, 100 to 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's so true. I do the exact same thing. I spend 100 times as much time researching watches as I do actually spending time at the AD looking at them.
And priority number one is managing your money. So if there's anything I could say directly to a more junior guy watching this, if you are in the military or just anyone young that's getting into watches and stuff, don't immediately think like, oh, I gotta like save up all my money and then go out and spend all of it on some crazy, wicked, expensive watch.
Yeah.
No. Priority number one is manage your money. Make sure you have all of your priorities set straight before you are to go out and make sure you pick the right watch too. You know, it's a decision you don't want to make, you know, oh, you just see something and grab it. You know, it's that principle of, hey, I'd like to buy this. Do I have everything in order? Is this something that I've sat on thinking about for, you know, multiple weeks on end and still am passionate about? Then and only then would I say pull the trigger and go and buy something, you know, that's upwards of $500.
Yeah. Is it really sensible to, you know, go out and buy, you know, Mega Railmaster or a Submariner,
you know,
when you don't have, or when you're still living in the barracks?
No.
Yeah. Like, no, it doesn't make sense at all. You know, does it make sense to make those kinds of purchases when you can barely keep up with your car payment because, you know, you go out drinking on the weekends?
Priorities. And too many guys I know that live in the barracks are living paycheck to paycheck. And the thing is, like, I look at that and I'm like, as a service member, there is no need or no reason why you should be having to live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Because you have all your needs met. If anything, you should be able to comfortably save at least $500 a month.
Yeah.
Genuinely, like at any pay grade.
Yeah.
You should be able to.
If you're not managing your money right.
Yeah.
Where you've accumulated too many expenses that you need to get paid off as soon as possible.
Yeah. So main like life lesson that I would put out there is like manage your money well. Know that this is just a hobby and like a fun pastime, and that if you do manage your money properly, you know, a few years down the line, if you're still passionate and invested in learning about watches, you'll probably have the money sitting there on standby to where you can go and actually purchase, you know, one of these crazy expensive watches. You know, it's not a need, it's a want.
Yeah.
But if you're passionate about it and you're smart with your money, it's out there and available.
So of your selection, if you could only get, if you were that Marine that's living in the barracks right now, who is trying to save $500 a month.
Yep.
What watch, which one watch out of this collection would you wear, or would you pick? You can only pick one.
As the everyday? Or you're just saying just in general?
In general, yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. It's either that watch or nothing.
I'm gonna go with my very first watch that I picked from the entire list. It would be that Hamilton, that khaki field. And the reason being is because, one, if you are a lower enlisted guy, that watch isn't going to break the bank. I already own that watch myself. I can speak on behalf of it and say it's a great watch.
Yeah.
It's iconic, and it's never going to go out of style. It's a great field watch, and you can wear it every day. Look, it's not a dress watch, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But how often are you going to a dress event versus, you know, waking up every day?
Yeah. If you're a Lance Corporal, you're not really going to formal affairs a lot. You're only going once a year at most. And
that watch could double. You could wear it in the field or to work every day. So I'd say for me personally, that would be my pick because it's not breaking the bank and it's just all around like iconic, probably the best option.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would go with personally. What about you?
I wanted to say the Seiko that I started with at the beginning of the video, but I have a feeling that if I were to take that thing out to a deployment, something bad would probably happen to it and then it would get destroyed. Because Seiko is great, but they're just, you know, it's not that durable. It's not that great. It's the Toyota of watches.
Yeah.
And Toyotas crash. I would go for that G-Shock that I mentioned earlier.
That would have been my other idea.
Yeah, like you can wear a G-Shock in uniform. You can wear it out of uniform, and you can take it to the field and beat it the hell up, and then it'll still look just fine.
Well, think about the countless number of guys you know that walk around in a G-Shock every single day.
Yeah, G-Shock is probably one of the top 3 most popular watch brands among people on base.
Yeah, just military in general. So
I would go for the G-Shock, and then if I was to go to the ball and that was my only watch, I'd just take it off. You know?
I was going to say, that's an interesting point too, is we'll probably end this soon here because we've been going on long enough.
Yeah.
But if you are someone that can't afford, you know, crazy expensive watches, you as a watch guy, you know, I hate to say it or hate to think it, but like you don't have to put something on your wrist.
Yeah, no, you don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
Like it's better to just take the watch off and show up to the ball or some sort of formal event without something, especially if you have sleeves. Like you're not even going to see it. Like, what's the point? You know? So it's better to do that than walk in wearing like a G-Shock that's like out of place.
Nobody's going to come up to you and say, why aren't you wearing a watch on your wrist?
Yeah.
They're going to come up to you and say, why are you wearing that G-Shock on your wrist? Don't you know this is a formal event?
Exactly. So I'd say that's my final point.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well, with that being said, we're going to wrap up the video here. If you guys have not donated to the Hawaii Salvation Army yet, please do so. The people of Maui are recovering from the wildfires. I keep saying this all the time, but you know they're recovering from the wildfires, but they really have affected a lot of livelihoods and a lot of homes over there. So anything that you can donate really helps. Also, with the state of our nation's economy being what it is, there's a lot of people in this country who are suffering. So donating to the Hawaii Salvation Army in general definitely helps. Also, I am on Instagram. Just follow me there @_WornDownCrown. And yeah, I'm looking forward to making more content with you in the future, Adam.
Absolutely. More videos to come. We covered a lot here, but thank you for your time and patience and listening in. But it was great talking to you.
We really appreciate it. See you soon.